Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics video on the channel. As always, as we do on a Wednesday, trade talk ahead of round 18. So another week of two trades and obviously a lot of us are in luxury trade season and making some moves. Just a bit of sideways switching. If you've got a rookie or two left on field, people obviously just trying to get those last couple off so they can enter luxury trade season as well. But if you haven't tuned into a trade talk before, we go through the top 10 most trade in-out players. I give my thoughts on them. We'll touch on a few guys that are outside of the top 10, my top 5 targets, and then my current trade plans on Tuesday night when I record this, but Wednesday when it gets released, because I don't change my trade plans sort of that quickly, or at least not on a Wednesday anyway. But let's get stuck into the most traded in-out players. So we'll start off with the most traded in, and George Stevens is the number one traded in player this week. 7,000 coaches are jumping on him. Scored 84 in his first game against Richmond, and he comes up against the Giants this week. So minus 14 break even. I think he had the most score involvement on debut from any player that's recorded. So obviously played very, very well. If you need a downgrade, definitely. And you need a little bit of team value as well, go for it. 200k, right? The only thing that worries me, who's he play for? Plays for Geelong. And we know that Geelong can do some funny things when it comes to their younger players. I know George Stevens is a little bit older, has had a couple of years in the system, but Ted Closey was about sort of this price of mid-forward, and he had a week or two, then he was sort of sub, and then he was out of the team. So I sort of wonder when Bailey Smith comes in. I think Stevens will get another game. He played probably well enough, too well, that he can't get dropped from that. But then again, Geelong does some funny things. So if you need a downgrade, I don't mind him. But a lot of people, I guess, have probably got good team value. You're probably wanting just to get the 230k guys now if your team value's in a good spot. So yeah, don't mind George Stevens if you're looking for a downgrade with a good break-in. If you can play a couple of weeks, you'll make decent cash. Like what's it say? What's his projected score? 64. He go up 66k, right? So if he gets a 70 or 80 again, and he probably go up 75, 80k again. So one to watch. That's for sure. Zach Merrett is next on the list. 6.2k are jumping on him, and I am very, very keen on Merrett this week, but it's a tricky situation because this week is a great matchup. Richmond, he plays well against Richmond every time he plays them. Richmond obviously giving up points. Then he comes into a tough run with a lot of tags. So Giants, you'd assume Bedford will go to him in this one here. Then it goes into the Dogs. No tag there, and you'd think he'll play in the midfield and they won't stuff around with his role. So he only scored a 50-odd against Dogs early in the year, but that was a poor game base, and I think Merrett will score better in that game. But then he goes Sydney, that'll be a Jordan, you'd think, or a Rowe-Bonham, but probably Jordan. Into a Geelong, that'll be a Mullen again. Into a St Kilda, that'll be Windhager. And then Carlton, that will be potentially Hewitt, maybe no one there in the final game of the season. But there's a few tags there, which is a bit of a concern. I'm looking at bringing him in this week because I'm potentially looking at a one-week play. I'm potentially looking at bringing in Merrett for the 1 week. And if everything was fine, trade him out the week after. If everything wasn't fine, I had to hold him for the week. I don't mind because I can loop him on the Thursday night the following week against Giants. And then the Dogs, I don't mind keeping him for that matchup either, and then trading ahead of the Sydney game. So I'm considering it. It's definitely an option. And 938k for Zach Merrett playing in the midfield is a good price. It just, with a few tags coming, that's obviously the tricky thing. Obviously, Caldwell's not going to be there for majority of the rest of the season, if not for the rest of the season. Parrish obviously out again, and I wouldn't be shocked if he didn't come back this season as well. So Merrett's going to be clearly the main guy in there, and we saw how good he was last week against Gold Coast with 145 back in the midfield, back at plenty of CBAs, and 40 touches, 6 marks, 5 tackles, fills all the stat lines as we know. High time on ground, which is normally Zach Merrett. So I do like Merrett as a play potentially. And if you've got a 23rd Prem already, or you're running a McCarthy there, I still don't mind Merrett as a play, as a 3-week play. If you're like, well, I don't want him on field next week, but I'm then happy to loop him and McCarthy next week. And if I can trade him next week, then that's fine as well. I don't mind that if you want to be aggressive and get the matchup, because we saw what he did against Richmond earlier in the year. He scored 149, albeit not from a huge amount of CBAs, but still, 37 touches, 8 marks, 7 tackles, 149. So if he does anything like that again, you're going to get another very, very good score. So I do like Zach Merrett as an option. Errol Goulden is next on this, 5.6k jumping on him, the third most traded in for the week. This week, I'm slightly concerned that he cops the Windhager tag. And the reason why I think he'll cop the Windhager tag is, so the last 2 weeks, Windhager hasn't actually attended many CBAs. He was at 0 against Freo, and then I think he had 8 against Hawthorn last week. So he's been playing a bit of time on the wing and a bit of time sort of all over the shop. So I'm just concerned that he'll go to Goulden. And we've seen Sydney have turned their form around, and it's been partly because of Errol being back. His ball use is so good. He's so important to their sort of ball movement going inside 50. And that's my worry, that Windhager will go to him this week. So I'm not looking at trading Errol in this week. I really like Errol as an upgrade target, but next week. Because next week he goes against North Melbourne, the SCG, which I think will be a good matchup for him. Giants, Essendon, Brisbane, Geelong, and West Coast Fisher. Pretty nice run for the remainder of the year. I think I'm just waiting until after this week. Just because I think if there is a chance he gets a tag, priced at 1.073, you don't really want to be trading into someone in a tough with a potential tag. Like we've seen what has happened with some high-priced players. You trade into them and what they can dish up. So I want to trade into him with a good matchup, and I think that's next week. So if you want to go a week early, though, and you think it just, even if he gets the attention, gets an 85, 90, and just puts out that score and then goes well from then, you want to get him this week, I'm all for it. But I just guess I'd probably raise that concern that potential tag could be coming for him. Corey McKercher, 3.1k jumping on him. He's the 4th most traded player. And I still think it's not too late. Drew Jones obviously said earlier today, or yesterday, sorry, when you'll be watching this, is that he was training at halfback, full-time halfback. So there's no concern for me about him changing role. I know that he went from the halfback to the full line last quarter, but I think he got a knock. He was on the bike, so either that or he was just tired. And they just thought, let's just try something, because the game was slipping away from him in that last quarter. So I think he'll be fine. I still think at 8.33 is a bit of value. But this is probably the last week, because if he goes another 90, 100 score, he's going to be near 900k. And then for me, that's too late. So this is the last week to get him if you are wanting to jump on. And a few people are doing that. Jack McRae, 5th most trading player for the week, 2.9k jumping on him. And if you're looking for a forward this week, I think he's probably the best pick if you don't already have a Bailey Smith and a Nick Martin. 123 last week, but turned up in 2 of his last week, which is nice. 10 tackles is good, 5 marks. Good run after the Sydney game. So Geelong, Melbourne, North Melbourne, Richmond, Essendon. Amazing run there. And Giants has been green for non-tagged players. So I think he's a good option. I think you can go as early as this week. I know Sydney's not as easy as what they have been, obviously, with their players back. But I think at 9.34, he's going to go up probably a little bit potentially this week. I think he is still a good option to jump on. Zach Butters is the 6th most traded in this week, 2.4k jumping on him. I do like Zach Butters as an option this week. West Coast, great matchup. Then goes it to... Butters is interesting, right? So obviously, West Coast, good matchup. Then Hawthorn, Adelaide, Geelong, Freo, Carlton, and Gold Coast. So I'll look at these games and who potentially could tag, because obviously Butters is the main tag guy at Port Adelaide. West Coast, they might run a Brady Hoff with him. I think Butters will be fine, though. Then Hawthorn. Nash can run with people, but Hawthorn haven't been tagging much this year. Crows haven't tagged. I think Peyton will probably run with him, but not really a tag as such. So he'll be fine there. Then it goes into probably a Mullen tag in round 21, into a Wagner tag, I would imagine. Then Carlton, they use Chincotta on him, then they drop the tag. So I don't think anything will be there. And then Gold Coast. So I think the last couple are good. I think that there's a few matchups around there, but I still think it's a good option because West Coast, Hawthorn, Adelaide, I don't think there's going to be a tag necessarily there, even though Hawthorn and Adelaide are trickier matchups. So Butters, 9.47, I think is a good option. 1.19 last week, looked very good. High time on ground, probably with the injuries there, but still good to see him play high time on ground and get some points with a 1.19, which... Is that I don't know if that's a season high. I think he scored a 121 or something earlier in the year, if I'm not mistaken. 126 against North Melbourne. So that was his, obviously there. So 119, his best score since then. And his only second score above 115. But if he can have a few more of those, he's in for a good last part to finish the year. Marcus Bontempelli is next on this, the seventh most trading player. 7th most trading player for the week. 1,500 jumping on him. Couple of tricky matchups in Adelaide and Brisbane to come. But then Essendon, Giants, Melbourne, and West Coast and Freo. So I think it's a good end to the year. I don't see a tag here in round 21 against Bedford. I think Bedford will go to an Ed Richards or a Bailey Dale instead. So I think Bont will be fine there. I can't remember, did Essendon run any attention like a Setterfield on Bont? No, he still scored 101, so that's fine. Yeah, I think Bont's still a fine target. I think I've probably just got a couple of guys ahead of him this week. His break-even is 85, so he is going to increase in price. So if you do want Bont, probably get him this week because he's going to keep rising up in price. But I do like Butters, guys like Merrett, even potentially the next guy we're going to talk about as well, maybe over Bont this week. But he's definitely an option. If you're keen on him, you can definitely go for him. Eighth most trade in, Lachie Whitfield. So 942k bargain for Lachie Whitfield, but the 149 break-even. I guess the question is, could you get him next week for maybe, if he goes, 120, probably loses 20k or so? Do you want to lose 20k and then get in the week, or 20, 30k and get him closer to 900k? Or do you want to jump on this week and just lock him in? He's someone I'm definitely considering as well, bringing in this week. I do want him. I don't think we want to go without him next week. Essendon at Marvel, that could be a monster score and has got a very nice end to the year as well. Play Sydney here. Jordan, I think Jordan will go with Callaghan. I think Callaghan's now up at the number one target at the Giants. I know we've seen Sydney in the past go with Jordan on a Whitfield. So, like, do they do that and then send like a row bottom? Actually, no, Braden Campbell will probably be the guy that actually does the job on Whitfield in this game here. So I think we've seen with Whitfield, though, he can get to a good score even when he gets attention because they've shown they can swing him forward, right? So I wouldn't be shocked if they swung him forward in that game against Sydney. Played them around the year, scored a 107, takes kick in, so there's already that base as well if he was to get attention. But I think he's a good target, so Lachie Whitfield, definitely someone that's got to be on your shopping list, I think, in the next few weeks. Jobe Shanahan is next on the... Actually, one thing I would say about Whitfield is that the one player that they have used as a defensive forward, Essendon have, I was just thinking about this just as I'm about to move on, because I was thinking, well, if Sydney run a potential Braden Campbell tag with Whitfield, then do the Bombers do that? Because Matt Guelphy has done jobs in the past. I don't know if he's injured at the moment. No, he's not injured at the moment. He's obviously just not in the team. Wouldn't be shocked if he could be someone that came in for that matchup. So just something to watch, but still love Whitfield as an option. I'm just, I guess, trying to work through if I'm bringing him in this week or not, trying to work out everything. Jobe Shanahan is that we're up to number 9 now? Yeah, 9th most trade in, 1,500 jumping on him. If you need to make some money and someone to get that cash to the forward line, -7 break even, 310k. I don't mind it, but I think if you've got good team value, I think I'd go Ashton Moore, who's 80k cheaper at 230k. I had some CBAs Moore as well, so I'd go for him if you need to save the cash. But if you need cash gen, I think Shanahan is a potential option. And Rowan Steele, 10th most trading player, -5 break even. Probably the big thing is if he's there this week. Obviously, we know Collingwood are a very strong team, and Sidebottom will come back in this week. I think Bobby Hill might come back in this week as well. And Rowan Steele will be probably unlucky if he was to be dropped, because I think he had a pretty good game. But that's obviously just with how good Collingwood are, just something to watch for. So, he might not be there. But again, if you need cash gen, he's named. I think I prefer Stevens, just with the lower break even. But, Rowan Steele, something to look for. Ashton Moore, just outside top 10, so I'll go through a few options here. Ashton Moore would be my forward downgrade if you're looking for him, for a forward, 230k, scored 49 last week, but because he was the sub in his first game, I believe, I can't remember who it was against, actually. Early in the year, ran 4 against Collingwood. Well, he wasn't actually sub, he played 55%, but had the one kick and the one handball. Not sure why he only had the 2 touches, but came back into the team. 9 touches, 5 marks, kicked a goal, 49, had a few CBAs as well. So if they're going to be doing that and he's going to have some CBAs, he might be a solid, just sort of forward cover moving forward, because a lot of people have got Jasper Alga, who's out for 3 to 4 weeks. So Ashton Moore is someone I'm looking at as a downgrade for like a Kyle Lohman, and he's someone that you could consider as well. Jack Martin, potential option if you'd like to go down this path. I guess it's just a weird time of the year to be trying to look for someone about that 600k, but if you've got no cash on your bench and you're trying to get an upgrade and maybe going like a Caleb Daniel down to a Jack Martin or even a Max Hall, get you that cash, you could consider doing something like that. 107 last week against Richmond, so a good score, averaging 80 from his 4 games, 84, 76, 53. So he's got better every game he's played. Still low game time, which obviously isn't great. It probably means that floor is quite low. I'm not positioned where I'm going to do it, and I don't know if I would endorse doing it. But if you wanted to get funky with trades and you needed a downgrade, I think you could potentially go there. I almost prefer Max Hall, though, because the role just does seem really good for him. I know Jack Martin's playing off half-back, but I feel like if you're going for someone there, Max Hall is here. What's he's priced at? Yeah, what's that? 5K cheaper. I feel like I'd almost go there. It's a tricky one. I think Bose could be okay, but Bose could also not go as well. But Max Hall's role last 2 weeks has looked good. He hasn't had CVAs, but he just feels like he's been playing a lot more around the ball. So you could go there as a bit of a cheat. I don't mind them as F7 plays. I think it is risky playing him with the F6, but I guess if your team's in a difficult spot, maybe you go there. Nasai Wanganeen-Miller, I actually don't think I'd go for him for the next couple of weeks. And the reason I wouldn't go for him next couple of weeks is the fact that round 8 this week in Sydney, Braden Campbell will certainly go to him. I don't think that's going to... Again, whether he can stop Nasai or not, that's the question, right? Then Geelong. Geelong are a team that will send tags to someone that can affect their game, and Nasai could be that. So it could be like a Mullen. If a Mullen doesn't normally do a half-back tag, right? And a few people told me that with Whitfield this week. But could like an O'Connor, someone like that, do a job on Nasai? I think that they'll try... Definitely Geelong. I think from round 20 onwards so if you don't have Nasai now, I think I'd just bank on a few tags in the next 2 weeks and then bring him in round 20, because this run here, you want him for this run. The Melbourne, North Melbourne, Richmond, Essendon, maybe Langdon does a job here as defensive forward potentially, but you want him at least for these games here, because there's some really good games there, and a lot of people are just going to say, I don't really give a crap about tags. I just want Nasai in my team so I can sleep better at night. And by all means, you can part for him. He's been fantastic this year. He's the 3rd highest averaging player for the year. Just thought I'd say there's a very likely tag this week for him. Horne-Francis, yeah, if you're looking for a cheaper forward, I think this could be a week you could go there. I'd rather it at F7, so you could maybe loop potentially Caleb Daniel first and see how he goes, then go into a Horne-Francis, or even loop a Sam Darcy or someone. I'd like it more as an F7. You can still go there at F6. It's just obviously he hasn't had that massive score yet, but against West Coast, it could be here where he does that. And if Port Adelaide don't bring in another sort of tall defender, Bergman might go back into defence, and then that means Horne-Francis probably moves more into the midfield with that. So something to watch with Port, but I don't mind Horne-Francis there. But he's not going to get away if you wait a week with a break in 84. But I guess in saying that, you want him for the good matchup, and it's potentially this game against West Coast. So, yep, someone to consider as a forward this week. Nick Dacos, yep, I really like him as a target this week if you haven't got him already. Obviously, he's very highly owned and he's expensive now, but with 2 of his next 3 being against Gold Coast and Richmond, the 2 easiest matchups, I believe, for mids for the season, I think are really good. Freo, maybe Wagner goes for him there, but with Nick Dacos, we've seen guys like Windhagen that try to go to him in this part of the last few games, and he still finds a way to get a good score, right? So I just think Nick Dacos, you just need in your team. If I was to do a rolling 22, he'd be probably my M1 at the moment. Like, look at that. Like, well, in his last 6 games, he's had 4 scores over 125. 83 with that Langdon tag, and then the 102 with the Windhager tag. And his time on ground is massive. Like, he hasn't gone below 88% in his last 4 games. So really good to see that as well. He's had quarters as well where he plays 100% TOG. So, yep, I do like Nick Dacos as an option if you don't have him. I wouldn't be looking at Will Dawes or anyone like that. Marshall, you definitely could look at in the rucks on with a Grundy, and Tyroo as well, and Archer Mayer are both downgrades if you need some cash gen in the forward line. Archer May with Richmond as well this week. Moving to the most traded out players for the week, and a few obviously sort of obvious guys there. Unfortunately, the most traded out player this week is Jai Caldwell, 4.3k. Trading him out, obviously, with the surgery on his ankle, syndesmosis. So that is a forced trade for everyone. Very unfortunate. The richer matchup's obviously what people brought him in for, along with last week, and obviously he's just been killing it at the moment. So really sad to see him go down, but hopefully we'll get back for the end of the year. But yeah, obviously will be a guy that we'll look at in our team potentially as well next year. But yes, has to go, unfortunately. Ned Long could go. Yep, I know the Gold Coast matchup's good, but I still see Ned Long as a guy that doesn't really matter with the matchups. He's not just going to... I actually see him going better in the harder matchups. And Gold Coast could be a harder one because Gold Coast will obviously be a good test for Collingwood up at People's First Stadium. So Ned Long you could hold, but I think it's time to go now. Like, he's not a top 8 mid. He's he's probably an 85 guy, maybe 90, and you can get guys going 105, 110 for patches for the back half of the year. So I'd be trading Ned Long out. Moving him on. He's done a really good job for us, but you probably don't want him dropping more 70s than that and dropping that cash. So I'd be trading him out. Zach Johnson, you probably, if you've got him, you're probably keeping him for one more week just against Richmond. Do they play early in the round? I can't remember if they play like, no, they play Saturday night, I believe. So you might be able to use him as loop him. If you've got a rookie still on field, you might be able to loop him, McCarthy, for this week because of the Richmond matchup. And you might even just want him maybe with the Richmond matchup, might pop a really good score. So maybe keep him for one more week. But then again, if you've got no other options to downgrade and him down gets you upgrade, you can trade him for sure. Co's wrong. I'd be trading. I've actually said last couple of weeks, probably been unpopular opinion, I guess, but I've said I wouldn't have minded trading Sarong out with the St Kilda matchup. Like, you got the scores, cash him out at his peak. He'll have Windhager into Jordan, and unfortunately that's been the case, and he's gone 62 and 46. If you are Sarong owner, I'd be trading him now. 152 break even. You can get to a player around his price, and I know that the run isn't great to end the year either. Hawthorn, Collingwood are tough matchups. West Coast, we know Sarong always plays well against West Coast, but then Carlton, Port, Brisbane, Dogs to finish. That's not good. So one, I guess, good matchup to finish the year. I would be trading Caleb Sarong and taking the scores in the cash gen and running. Manny Liddy's next on this. I think he comes back into the side with those injuries, particularly the Power Pep one. I wouldn't be shocked if Manny Liddy's the one that takes that role again. -6 break even. If he comes back in, you're not trading with such a low break even. Sam Doherty, new defender as well. Obviously getting defender status last week, but he can go as well. 918k has been good if you picked him a few weeks ago, particularly if you got him against the Essendon for that first matchup post-bye 112. If you got him from then on, I got him in the West Coast matchup, so 131 was really nice, 93.84. He doesn't have to go, particularly if he's named, and he's named obviously in defence, which I think he will, with a few injuries still at Carlton. And the good thing is, if you've got like a Bustling, if he's not named, or you got someone that you can loot with, he could be someone that you maybe loop on the Thursday night and see how he scores potentially. And then, look at what he scores. But if he's your sort of one guy that you need to trade out, then I'm happy to trade, because it's not very far to get even a Whitfield. What is it, 26k to upgrade to a Lachie Whitfield? It's about the same for like a Merrett or a Butters or someone like that. So I'm happy to trade Doc if he's there. But I think between him and Bergman, I'm trading Bergman ahead of Doc at this stage this week, unless Doc is dropped, which obviously we know can potentially happen. Matt Roberts is next on the list. He's number 7, most traded out. Yeah, he can go. Sub last week, not much more to say there. He's obviously plummeting in price. I think he lost 65k last week. Huge break even. The Mills has obviously come in and just completely changed his role, so he's got to go. Tristan Cherry, I think if you're in a really good spot and you've got rid of the Bergmans, the Docs, the Longs, and you don't have a Caldwell to deal with, I think that even if you've got Caldwell, there is a world where you could go Caldwell down to a Butters or a Whitfield or a Merrett or someone like that, and going Cherry up to a Marshall or a Grundy. I tick that off. I think that can be done. I know Cherry, obviously, most people aren't going to be trading, but if you're in a really good spot and you want to maybe get maybe a step ahead, he does have Melbourne and Sydney's next two, which are two tough matchups, and obviously had the head knocks last week. It sounds like we passed the concussion test, so it sounds like he's on his way to be playing this week. But if you want to sort of get Grundy, who's obviously killing it, or Marshall, who's also going very well, I wouldn't go Gawn this week. I'd wait. The only way I'd go Gawn is if Cherry were to be ruled out for some reason. Then I'd go to Gawn because he will be up against North Melbourne, no Cherry, and he's got a good run for the remainder of the year. But if you're trading him out, it's Grundy or Marshall, one of the two. Probably Grundy being the more unique one, just because not many people are going to be able to afford to pay up for him there. So I think he can go. Sheldrick, yep, he can go. What did he score? Yeah, what did he score last week? 49. Yeah, that's not a great score. So he's done his job. He's made cash, but he can go up, and it's time for him to go. And then Nick Madden, yep, he's obviously dropped last week, so Briggs back in the team, so he can go as well and make that cash. So they're the top 10 most trade out. So some other players here, Bailey Dale can go. You can upgrade him. If you're in a luxury spot, obviously just with some poor scores, and he is a tag target. there. So he can go to Whitfield, or if you're looking for a defender like that, I think that's a good trade this week. Angus Clark, same with Zach Johnson. If you need to hold for one more week for Richmond, you could. But again, if you need the money, he can go. Adam Chera, I'm probably less keen to trade. He's averaging 97. His role was back last week. He was the third highest CBA attendee. And I think then you had Moyer and Williams had 9 each. And then I think it was like Lord who had 3. So it was a tight midfield mix last week. I don't know whether they stick with that. Obviously, Carlton, we know, are changing everything. If you're in a really good spot and you want to get off of someone that's still highly owned, you could. But I think most cases, I think Chera's probably fine to hold. I think we've probably got guys. I'd trade Doc ahead of Chera. I'd trade Bergman. I'd trade Long. I'd trade a few guys ahead of Chera, but he could be someone you do look to trade. Finn O'Sullivan, yep, he can go. Obviously, he's done his job right. Is he still over 500k, or did he drop under because of the 30? 502, yep. So, again, he still has done a solid job. Slow burn, but made the cash. He can go, and you can cash out of him and use that money and get your upgrade. Bailey Smith, over 1,000 coach jumping off him. If he's named, you're not trading. If he isn't named, then I think you can move off for sure. Davidson can go. He's done his job. Hugh Boxall can go. Could get named at any point, but still, I think he can go. Hewitt, yep, he can go sideways. I'd rather trade him over Chera, I think. And Hewitt's been way too up and down. Like, he obviously started the year very well, but with, what was it, like 8 tons in a row or something like that, 7 tons in a row, was it? 7 tons in a row. But then, 71, 80, 94, 46, and it comes back 125, 105, 102, but then 89 and 68. Obviously, always has handballed a lot, but he's handballing a lot more the last few weeks than compared to some games where he was sort of almost 50-50 kick to sort of handball. So, yep, he can go. Kyle Lohman, a lot of people probably jumping off him. He's still got probably a little bit more cash to make, right? Break him 38, but obviously people are just cashing out. He is 500k. That probably gets the upgrade. I'm looking at that this week, so he can go. Crazy to think that he still dropped 115k for the season, obviously, with those injuries. But, yep, he's someone that you could look at downgrading. Tom DeConing, can go for sure. Will Ashcroft can go. Butler, Daniel, Oliver, Bergman. All these guys can go. They're not top of the line. They're sort of at a decent enough price. Obviously, Butler being a bit cheap, but the other guy, Butler can go down, but the other guys can all go up as well. There, like Caleb Daniels, probably one that if he's the F6, maybe go. That's fine enough for now, but he can also go. If you can go to a McRae, I think that is potentially a good move there. My top 5 targets for the week. So this is a really tricky one to do because I think there are a few good options this week to go for. But at number 1, I'm going to go Nick Dacos if you don't have him. Gold Coast and Richmond in his next 3. I just think if you don't have him, you need to jump on. So he would be my number 1. But I know a lot of people have got him. So at number 2, I'm going to put Zach Merrett. I'm going to put Merrett. Richmond matchup. There's no guarantee he gets tagged by Giants because they might just go, well, we're going to win the game anyway. Bedford didn't tag against West Coast last week, probably because there's no obvious tag. Merrett playing more midfield as well probably raises his floor. And he's got the Dogs, which I think is fine enough to hold. If you want someone that's more of a longer season play, then maybe you don't go here. But yeah, I do like the play. At number 3, I'm going to go Colby McKercher for those that still haven't got him. I think this is the last week to jump on him. So if you don't have him, this is the final week, and I'd still endorse jumping on him. So he's number 3. Number 4, I'm going to go Lachie Whitfield just ahead. I'm going to go Zach Butters at number 5. So I'm going to go Whitfield just ahead. I know Whitfield's got a huge break even, but we know what he can do when he's playing off half back, and he's obviously back in that role. So, yep, I do like Whitfield and Butters as well. I do like with the upcoming run, obviously West Coast this week. Could be some tags, and he is the number 1 tag target. That's probably another reason I got Whitfield just ahead, but I like both. And Jack McRae probably would be the other one I mentioned that just misses, but if you're looking for a forward, I think he's the guy that I'd be going for. So a lot of guys that are sort of highly traded in this week. If you don't have a Nick Martin as well, great option against Richmond. I don't mind Tom Green as well there. So a few good options, but they would be my top 5. And obviously a few people have already got Dacos and a few people have already got McKercher and whatever. So a few people are looking at your Gould. Like Goulden, the only reason he's not my top 5 this week is because of the tag potentially with Winhager. But next week he'll be probably top couple in terms of trade-ins because he's got North Melbourne, which I do like. So if you want to go early, you definitely can do that. My trade plans for the round. So at the moment, I've got Kyle Lohman going down to Ashton Moyer, and then I'm going Miles Bergman up to Zach Merrett at the moment. Lachie Whitfield is the other one I'm heavily considering. I'm just, I guess, debating, do I go Merrett this week, and then potentially if everything goes smoothly this week, which we know fantasy doesn't always do that, but then could I jump off Merrett straight away? If I got to hold him for another week, I'm fine to do that, but I'd have 180k in the bank, so I can go a couple of sideways moves like docketing in someone else to Goulden and Whitfield. So that's what I'm thinking. Merrett this week, Goulden, Whitfield next week, but I'm also thinking, well, maybe do I just go Whitfield this week, and then I can go Goulden and someone else next week. So that's what I'm thinking. But yeah, the richer matchup, potentially a captain option in my own team this week, and we'll be featuring, I would imagine, the top 5 this week in captains, which comes out tomorrow. So that is it for Trade Talk. But yes, captains will be tomorrow, as it always is, on a Thursday. But if you do want to head over to our Patreon and check out the Patreon Q&A that does drop tonight, then you can head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. So if you'd like a team review, if you'd like to get involved in the Patreon Q&As, or if you'd just like to help support us, or almost as a thank you as well, if you've enjoyed the content throughout this season, you'd like to jump on the Patreon for the last couple of months of the year, that would be very much appreciated. And yeah, you can head to patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics for all the details there. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you guys are doing with your trades for round 18. Let me know what you're doing, and any questions you have, put them in the comments, and I'll try and get a couple if I can. But as I said, I can't always, unfortunately, get to the comments on the YouTube video. So if you do want a guaranteed answer, Patreon is the best place to get those. Make sure you do smash a like on the video if you enjoyed the video, as always. And make sure you do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But yeah, if you are watching, let's try and get to 100 likes. So if you are watching right now, just click the like. It takes 2 seconds, but really does help us out a whole bunch. So if you could do that, that'd be fantastic. I'll be back probably pretty much straight after this video for our Game Day Squad preview. A bit earlier tonight because obviously the State of Origin is on. So obviously Tom will be doing the show for that one after. So we're doing that a little bit earlier. This week we're doing our preview. Yeah, and then watch along on Thursday, captains on Thursday, pre-lockout chat Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. per time, answering more of your questions there. So all the usual content and all that stuff for the remainder of the week. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys straight after this, for the Game Day Squad preview, and then tomorrow for our captains. So thanks everyone. Good night. See ya.